We'll continue this morning with the Scottsboro Wildcats. Coach Chris Bell beginning his second season. Glad to have you back again this year, Coach. If
Thank you, Jeff.
You'd let the young men introduce themselves, or you introduce them, then make some opening comments about this year's Wildcats, would appreciate it.
All right, guys, y'all go ahead.
My name is Trey Cooper, and I'll be a senior this year.
My name is Nate Warren. I'm going to be a senior this year.
Trey plays cornerback and safety for us, plays a little bit on offense for us. Nate is our starting right tackle. Coming back, first I want to just thank y'all for having us. Y'all do a great job here. I thoroughly enjoyed our time up here last summer, and looking forward to this today. As far as the year this year, we've come a long way in a little over 12 months now. Have certainly learned a lot about our guys. They have, they've bought into everything that we're asking them to do. We started practice this week. We didn't have spring, so we started on Monday. Just had our first practice in pads this morning, so these guys just came off the field, showered, and we headed up the mountain to get up here. Looking forward to this fall. Challenging schedule, new region. I think a lot of old rivalries are going to be renewed for the town, for the community, and I think we're excited about that. But I think the big thing, just the community as a whole, they've really jumped behind what we're doing. The kids have, they've adapted. I think they have. We learned an awful lot last year. I told them, we started out, we're 1-6. Not looking real good. We come up and win 2 of our last 3, and Coach Benefield and Fife, they humbled us pretty good in that last ball game. But that game aside, I thought we showed really a tremendous amount of poise throughout the season. The kids came out, they practiced hard every day. They've continued that through the off season, and we expect it to pay dividends this fall.
Coach, could you speak on the experience coming back, the number of starters, offense and defense, and maybe how many players you have in the program this year for the Wildcats?
Well, we've got 68 in the program right now, which is about what we had at this time last year. We didn't finish with 68, but that's what we had at this time last year. We've got 16 guys coming back that started a game, and whether on one side of the ball or the other. We have offensively, we've got 6 starters coming back. Defensively, we've got 6 that had started at some point coming back. So we've got and a couple of guys that are going to be playing that started maybe at another position. So we've got, I got Thomas Stewart's playing receiver for us. He didn't start on offense, but he started at safety for us last year. So we've got a lot of guys that have Friday night, legitimate, meaningful snaps. And again, I think that's I thought defensively we were experienced last year, particularly up front. And that's probably, if we have a huge question mark, it would be, at this point, it would be our defensive front and linebackers, just because that's where we lost the most, was in that spot. Offensive line-wise, we've got 3 starters coming back on the offensive line. We've got our tight end, who'll play some out wide as well. He's coming back. Starting quarterback's coming back. Our fullback is coming back, and we've got one of our slots is coming back. So actually, we got 7 on offense if you count my tight end that started last year. Then defensively, we've got a lot of experience in the secondary. 3 of our starting 4 in the secondary coming back, and excited about what they have back there.
Well, Coach Bell, Scottsboro was one of them schools when COVID came in. It really affected the program for a while. Y'all had, COVID issues. Some schools had the big problems with it, some didn't. You think last year that might have affected this team a little bit, kind of got behind, and then later on in the year you said y'all improved. So do you think things are starting to come together for you?
Well, here's the thing. We're not going to make excuses about anything. Did it affect us? Yeah, I think in hindsight it probably did. I think, not only did you have COVID, but, Coach Jacobs had resigned back at the end of December. And so really and I didn't get hired till the end of March and didn't start full-time until after spring break. So these guys, they didn't finish the season because they lost 2 ball games in 2020. They lose the head coach after Christmas. And then you go January, February, March, and there's no leadership in the program. that's going to take a toll. And I think if I would go back and as a coach, if I would go back and do anything differently last year, I think I would have probably gone back and recognized just the effect that all of that had. I think, well, you get there and you pin your ears back and you put blinders on. You say, I'm just moving forward. We've got to get ABC in. You got your step-by-step thing. This is what we're going to do to get this program where we think it needs to be. But we probably needed to take a couple more steps backwards before we went forwards. And for us, I think during the year, we ended up, at one point, Jason, what did we have at one point? I mean, it was 11 starters out at one point. We were decimated, but I've never had a year like we had last year with injuries. Now, again, that's not an excuse. That's just, but that's life. Does it affect it? Sure, it affects it. But if you're a quality program, and that's what we want to be, you've got to be a program that can handle that type of adversity.
For the players, to sort of piggyback off Phil's question and Coach Bell's answer, the last couple of years in particular, they've been what they have been, and that's what it is. What it is. How do you close the book on that as you prepare for the 2022 season? What have you done in this off season to really prepare yourself to say we're not worried about it because there's nothing we can do about it from in the past? How do you focus on 2022? What have you done to kind of close that book?
We just nose of the grindstone. We just get to work every day. We got a new weightlifting program and running program, and it's pretty rough. So we're gonna be ready.
Yeah, like we've been working hard lately, and we've done this conditioning thing, aerobic system, where we can get a lot faster. We have to stay in the exact same blood pressure?
The heart monitor.
Heart monitor. And we're just getting a lot faster. We run like 4 to 6 miles every single day.
We're not running that far every day, but
Well, something like that.
It seems like it to them. But and I don't know that Nate's run 6 miles yet. He may have gotten 4 once.
Nate has not ran 6 miles yet.
It may feel like 16. But we've not. Now, what they're talking about, we're doing training the aerobic system a little bit differently than we have in the past. Again, when you get decimated by injury, you're going to look at what do we need to do differently, to keep our guys from getting hurt. I mean, the goal of your off-season program, your strength and conditioning, is to minimize injury. And so we've adjusted what we're doing. We're being more intentional about conditioning. A lot of times as football coaches, some of the things I think that we traditionally think we do for conditioning, really what it does is just get our guys tired. And at times, any of us, the more tired we are, the more susceptible we're going to be to injury. So we've tried to be smarter about how we trained, and we're going to find out if it makes a difference this year.
Good to see you, Coach Bell. Just wanted to get your thoughts on back here. Just wanted to get your thoughts on the schedule this year. Obviously, you dropped from 6 to 5A, and a new slate of region opponents this year. And you mentioned rivalries renewed. I've got to think you're referring to Guntersville.
Absolutely.
And it's good to have them back on the schedule. Just wanted to get your thoughts on the emphasis for that game, especially now that it's a region game.
Well, number one, I haven't even thought about it a whole lot because it's not till the middle of the season. Right now, we've got those rascals, down the road from Fort Payne, and then behind them, North Jackson, and then we talk about Boaz and Arab and whatnot before we get to Guntersville. But I think just when you sit back as a fan and as somebody in the community, I couldn't believe they weren't on the schedule when I got there. I mean, it makes sense. You got they're at one end of the lake, we're at the other, and you ought to be playing. I'm excited about it. It is I think anytime you get communities involved, that's what makes high school football so special. Anytime you get communities of our size involved in any type of competition, I think it's big. So it'll be fun. They've done a great job the last few years. They have really, I think they've really set themselves apart. They certainly ought to be going into the season. I think, Guntersville and Arab ought to be. They ought to be the favorites going in. With Boaz, probably third is probably if I was doing our schedule, ranking it, that's how I'd do it. And then we're going to be battling up in there. But when it's all said and done, I like what we have, and I like where we are going forward. And we're going to find out in a hurry because we've got Boaz, Arab, and Guntersville, right out the gate.
Coach, moving into this all-important, fall camp right here, what is your number one focus for this team? There's always something that you got to dial in on to get these guys ready to go. What is that for you and your club?
Well, you know, gosh, it's hard to pin that down to one, but I would think on both sides of the ball, you know, the one thing, and again, we're a weekend right now, so we just finished, you know, day of practice number 5 this morning. When you go back and turn on the film, you know, everything else aside, and you look at what happened and why the result was the result that it was, the biggest takeaway is that we just had too many mental mistakes. So I think if you were to, you know, yes, we want to get stronger. We, you know, I think, you know, you played Fife, they physically just wore us out. And, you know, you can focus on that and whatnot. There were times, like we played Arab. I felt like that night, I felt like we got pushed around. We didn't, when you turn the film on, it wasn't so much we got pushed around. It was just we made so many deadgum mental mistakes that it looked and felt like they just physically wore us out. And, you know, if I'm an offensive lineman and I've got a 3 technique in front of me and that I've got a base block, but instead I veer release and that son of a gun comes off and hits my fullback in the mouth, it's going to feel like he physically just wore us out. But it wasn't that. It was just the mental breakdown that I had. So I think, you know, defensively, same way. You know, we got a stunt called and, you know, I've got a shade that's supposed to slant to the opposite A gap, and he sits up there, and my linebacker's going, we got 2 guys in the same gap. That's all of a sudden we're going to get gashed. And again, it just feels worse than it is. So it's just getting those things cleaned up and learning how to, I mean, really think like a football player.
Yeah, I just want to ask you this question. Coach chose you 2 guys from all the 68 that's on the team. Obviously, you're 2 of the leaders on the team. What does that mean to you that Coach brought you to Media Day to represent the town of Scottsboro, the Scottsboro Wildcats?
It just means, I mean, to me, we got a higher standard to live up to, and we got, I mean, anybody, he could have picked any one of our seniors, everybody leads on our team, and yeah, it just means a lot.
It just shows us that we're like true leaders, and we also like, because we mostly help out our other teammates, mostly our brothers. So I just feel like that's why.
Coach, I want to piggyback on that now. Tell us why you chose these 2. There's a reason these 2 are here today.
They drew the short straw. No, these 2 guys are, I mean, you know, Trey's a guy that, you know, he's been a 3-sport guy. He's just one of those guys that's a leader in the school. He's got tremendous personality. He is, you know, I tell his daddy I pray for him every day because Trey's one of those guys that's, I mean, he's Mr. Excitement. Sometimes that excitement's going to be good, sometimes it's going to be bad, but something's going to happen when Trey's around. Nate's another guy. He's a multi-sport guy, wrestles, just a stand-up guy. When you look at, you know, as far as attendance in the weight room, attendance during your off-season program, effort when you're out there, these 2 guys are always up front. You know, Nate's talking about the conditioning. He's one of those guys that I'm constantly having to rein in. Sometimes he's pushing them. He's one of those guys. Both of these guys are guys that will overwork themselves at times if we allow them. And I'd rather be tightening the reins than having to, you know, use that whip and smack them and get them going.
Well, this is for the players. You can tell Coach Bell's class act. What kind of influence does he have on you off the field?
He'll keep you in check. You walk in school with a hat on, you're getting hit upside the head, hat's coming off, shirt's going to be tucked in.
No, that's literal. Like,
Yeah.
we
Like
need to
really.
cut that right
Like,
there.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, he teaches more to be a man than anything. Teaches how to treat women, just all around. Teaches lots of life lessons.
Like what Trey said, he's mostly always there for us when we need him. That's like, he's like a father to us.
Coach, thanks a lot for being here today. You got it. Just go ahead if you have
No,
something.
I said I was going to say I feel more like a grandfather, but that's, you know, we're
Hey,
good.
we appreciate you being here. Good luck. I know your challenging schedule coming right out of the box with those
Hey,
2
look,
teams.
y'all just make sure you tell Chris when he gets up here to take it easy on it. He sat there and poor mouth last year and then come up and whipped our tail. Now you tell him I don't want to hear any of that this time. He can go ahead and play his junior high against us, and I won't complain.
I'll let Jason tell him that, okay? Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.